This article popped up on my Twitter timeline a couple days ago, and it was an article that should bring some positivity to your day. At least it did to mine. So here's the title: Austin, Texas, obviously, to use money cut from police budget to buy hotels for homeless population. So that is what people mean when they talk about, I should say, defunding the police. Divest that massive amount of funding and resources that is allocated to police departments all across the country, and that is disproportionately used to oppress and brutalize communities of color, as well as other vulnerable and marginalized folks, as well as people protesting in solidarity against police violence and brutality. Use that money, use that massive amount of resources to fund programs of social uplift like this. And again, more or less diverting this funding from the police would be better spent on almost any conceivable issue that we would think of, whether it be housing in this case, education, healthcare, mental health services, substance abuse treatment, arts, sports, parks, regenerative agriculture, reparations, whatever it is. So good on you, Austin. Let's see if it talks about how much. Austin will use, get out of here, cat commercial. Austin will use some of the money redirected away from the city's police budget last summer amid Black Lives Matter protests to purchase a hotel that will be turned into permanent supportive housing for people experiencing chronic homelessness, the city council decided Wednesday night. That's awesome. Austin City Council voted to approve the purchase of a 2-year-old hotel, the Texas Bungalows Hotel and Suites, that will be turned into 60 units of permanent supportive housing for the city's homeless population. The city is using around $6.7 million from its Housing and Planning Department's 2018 general obligation bonds to purchase the hotel, and money from a recurring $6.5 million fund taken from the police budget to pay for the services for the hotel's residents, which are expected to cost around $1.6 million each year. According to the appeal, the city's homeless services division will contract nonprofits to cover certain operating costs and set up services for residents like mental health and substance use treatment and case management. The city is also considering the purchase of a second hotel and will vote on that measure, which will provide roughly 80 units of permanent supportive housing along with other amenities like a computer room and a fitness room next week. Critical quote: in the wake of Black Lives Matter protests this summer, we made a significant cut to policing dollars and invested that in things like this, Councilmember Gregorio Casar, who led the effort to cut police funding, said at the vote. That's how we're paying for this. That's the only reason we're able to do this. Austin was one of over a dozen cities that moved to partially reduce or redistribute police budgets after a summer of racial justice protests sparked by a string of deaths of black men and women in police custody. The city cut $20 million from its police budget. That's awesome. Drawing from overtime, cadet classes, and funding previously used for unfilled positions, and redistributed another $80 million to other government agencies, which took over certain functions previously run by the police department. Texas Governor Abbott, along with other Republicans, strongly opposed Austin's involvement in the defund the police movement and has threatened to punish localities that cut law enforcement budgets, saying he'd like to see them lose access to all of their tax revenue. Chief critic: defunding and disrespecting police is the worst possible policy a municipality or state could adopt, Abbott said earlier this month. No, I think it is one of the best policy that a city or state government could adopt. Abbott's completely and utterly wrong in his assessment there. And again, kudos to Austin. This is what the whole defund the police movement is about. Divesting from the police, which are tools of white supremacy and capitalism, act as forms of social control. And again, they're never on the right side of social movements, whether it be labor issues or racial or social justice issues like the Black Lives Matter movement, or civil rights movement during the 1960s. It was always the police. It will always be the police who will be on the wrong side of these issues, because that is inherent to their function. So kudos to Austin. Let's keep up the pressure, keep up the momentum to make sure police departments across the country, follow in this same path to defund the police and invest in programs of social uplift that actually improve the material conditions of people's lives, instead of using these millions, sometimes hundreds of millions, sometimes billions of dollars, like, that goes to the NYPD each year to brutalize and oppress communities of color and other vulnerable and marginalized groups. Those are my comments. Leave yours down below. Like the video if you like the damn video. Subscribe for more content. Peace. Much love. All power to the people.